Tēnā koutou. I'm Michael Winter, and it's great to be here at the National New Zealand Flax Collection at Manaki Whenua Land Care Research in Lincoln. I'm with Katerina Tawiri, talking to her about scientific and cultural perspectives of her work with harakeke. Katerina.
Kia ora.
How are you doing?
Michael, good.
Lovely to be talking to you.
Lovely spot to meet here at the
It is,
harakeke.
it's great, isn't it? And a beautiful day too.
Yeah.
Tell me, how did you get involved in the work in harakeke?
So, I made myself a few notes here because the questions were sent to me beforehand. Because there's so many things I always want to talk about, but we only have 20 minutes roughly. So, I was born basically with an interest in plants, and we just talked about this before, about healing and stuff. So I grew up in Switzerland, and I had a love for all things growing. Even as a child, I would do little baskets and I would use setches and things like this. So I always felt connected to plants and also to agriculture, because I then actually studied agriculture in Switzerland. And my mother grew her own veggies, and my first thing I did as a little kid, I grew a garden with flowers in the middle of the forest, and so I had an interest in plants always. And then when I came to Aotearoa, I married to a Maori, and I got inspired into Mātauranga Māori and all things around New Zealand plants, because they were new to me. And I also did CPIT courses in raranga, weaving with harakeke. And so I got more and more involved into the weaving and finding resources for doing my weaving. And I was forever looking out for good harakeke, and that's how I found the National New Zealand Flax Collection here. Because people said you can go here and harvest. And of course here the flaxes are all named, and you know what you get. So if you want to weave a specific sort of a kete, you can just go to the database and look which cultivar of all of these, and you go straight to it. And so you know what you get, as if you go out in nature. You have to try, it's trial and error. So
I didn't realise that there was a specific plant for a specific job.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. And so to get back to your question, it was basically 12 years of being here, of listening to scientists and people who have the knowledge. So I picked up all of this around the harakeke plant, because I come from Switzerland. I didn't know even it existed when I arrived. And just found this deep interest because I found out everything about the plant is culturally connected. It's connected with Mātauranga Māori. So I really got the best of both worlds. I got the scientific perspective of my colleagues here, especially Sue Shield, who helped me a lot, and botanists and ecologists, and also Te Wanangawa Aotearoa, Tertiary Institute in New Zealand. I got the other perspective, Mātauranga Māori, and the actual skills of weaving from. So I've been very lucky.
So it's like total immersion in harakeke.
Yes.
And I noticed as you talk that you've got earrings. Did you make those?
No, they're from Hokitika.
Oh, okay.
But they're made from harakeke and and Bonaminid.
So how do you work from both the scientific and the cultural perspective?
How do I work? So
did it evolve, or was it a deliberate choice?
No, it was not a deliberate choice. It was just evolved because firstly I had this passion for plants, and I always liked the interaction of plants and humans, which we call ethnobotany. So I'm not just a purely plant person, but I actually enjoy to find out how plants affect humans and humans affect plants. And hence my personal interest, which I don't live here at Manaki Whenua, of healing, properties of plants and nutritional values of plants also. So that's how, I've always been interested in a holistic view of the plants.
So it's a passion of yours, this whole
Yes.
thing.
Yeah. And I don't think it's been taught or anything. I think I was born with it. You know, like certain things, you're just born with it. You don't even know where
Sometimes
it's
you
from.
have a click, don't
because
you?
my parents are actually not, you know, they're architect and, well, my mom is a handicraft teacher, or was. So maybe the crafty bit of that comes in from that side. And it fitted my role here really well, that I had this background from farming, so I knew about the biology of the plant, if you want, so how they grow and you know, actually what they like. And then also my being married to a Maori, the cultural side came in, and the wisdom that comes from that side.
So what did you find? I mean, so coming from Switzerland to Aotearoa, getting immersed in the harakeke culture, what did you find most interesting and most surprising?
Most surprising maybe is that not more Pākehā know about Mātauranga Māori. And most surprising, because Switzerland is a very multicultural country, so I grew up with a lot of different cultures.
Right.
As when I came to New Zealand, I found that it's very Western Pākehā white culture. All the education systems are built up on that. All the rules and laws are guided by a Western culture. All the scientific way of doing things in the science world is like this. So that surprised me, and the racism surprised me a bit in New Zealand. But also I started to discover about myself through working with Māori.
Right.
And on a daily basis. Also my limited awareness of, and it maybe possibly even acceptance of another culture. So it was a really, I feel very fortunate that I have been immersed in this, and I'm glad that I was open enough to listen and let it get to me and come to me and receive the Mātauranga, because it's so different to the Te Ao Māori is quite different. The view of the world is quite different to a Western view.
Right.
Of the, and I found that after one of the things I think we wanted to talk about was kind of the difference. Can they work together?
Yes.
Mātauranga Māori and the Western science, and
Yes.
I would say absolutely. In fact, they can enrich each other.
In what way in particular do you see?
Take the best from both worlds. For example, let's say DNA sampling we've done on our National New Zealand Flax collection. We found out that each harakeke bush here has a specific Māori name.
Right.
Which was given by the iwi or the hapu, where it came from. But then we found out that quite a few are actually genetically the same, so although they came from different places. So we thought, how is that possible? And started to give us the understanding of how harakeke plants were traded, just because they were very valuable plants. So they were traded, and when a new iwi would receive it as a gift, the chief would possibly give it a new name, make it their own. And so this gave us a little bit of an understanding how plants were moved. Also finding harakeke, let's say, on the Auckland Islands or subantarctic islands where they don't naturally grow. They were taken there by whalers and Maori fishing people, and so it helps you understand these things. Maybe even for Maori it'll be interesting to see this, how things have travelled. And
so you're getting an idea of also the trading relationships and so on too, aren't you?
Just see how things have been dealt with, and how valuable it was, the harakeke, if we just specifically talk about harakeke.
Yeah. Okay. And so there must be aspects of this work that you find particularly challenging.
No, actually, I don't find anything really challenging as such. The only thing which would be possibly challenging, but I don't experience it here, is if I would be withheld knowledge. You know how sometimes it's very secret, a certain type of knowledge, and then you would kind of be stuck. But I have never encountered with anyone, not with Pakeha, not with Maori. We're all, I've been fortunate.
So you've got an open exchange of information.
Yeah, which I do believe sometimes probably takes time. You know, you need to be prepared to be with a certain group of people for a while, and I know that from Switzerland, until they kind of warm up and are ready.
You have to build trust.
Yeah,
don't
you have to build trust,
that
your knowledge that you share is actually in good hands, so it can't be rushed as such.
Right.
I think that's something to consider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't have problems with patenting and trademarks and stuff like that too.
That's a huge
Or is that an issue?
whole session for itself. All the intellectual property issues, following Y262, Treaty of Waitangi guidelines. And I feel very proud that Manaki Whenua is very open and very considerate in this regard. And just listening to our name, Manaki Whenua, and Harakeke Research, so we have the Maori name as our first name, and Harakeke Research as our second name. So I think, I'm just fortunate again to be in this in this environment here with this institution.
So how do you interact with schools and educational institutions?
Yes, I do. Mostly on it, just going for a couple of hours talking on our collection, maybe doing a little bit of harakeke weaving with them.
Right.
But I've just thought about it when I prepared myself for these questions. I thought, what would what advice would I give to teachers if they would ask? How they could incorporate both worlds, Mātauranga Māori and the Western scientific world. Because we live in this Western world, anything Mātauranga Māori hasn't got as much support.
Right.
Also, through colonization, huge amounts were lost. And so what we have, I think, is like a treasure that we still have.
Right.
And a lot of the old people hold this treasure, and I think they should be supported in sharing it, and a great effort should be made to keep this knowledge, because to me Western science is fantastic. You can zoom in on something really specific and get some really specific, fantastic, in-depth answers. As Mātauranga Māori has more of a holistic approach. If I can say that as a Swiss person. I'm not even sure if I'm entitled to say, but that's how I feel anyway. I can only say what I feel. Has a more of a holistic approach and looks how scientific facts are connected to each other and how they affect. So I feel they have a wider view, and I think if that could be combined with Western science, it would be such a win-win. And so if I could say something to a teacher when they say, what should I incorporate into my class? I would say, first of all, go to a Treaty of Waitangi workshop.
Right.
Just learn about colonization, what it has done to science, to Mātauranga Māori, to the culture, to their culture and our culture, where they're coming from. To me, I went to 3 workshops until I got it. I'm a bit slow. First, I knew it intellectually, you know, how you know something, and I read the papers and all.
Yes.
But in the third one, it felt like it clicked and it became a part of my heart. And now I feel I'm entitled to sort of share it. And the second thing, I would read the book called Healing Our History by it says Robert Considine and Joanna, his daughter Joanna Considine. Fantastic book, going all the way back to Ireland, colonization, India, everything, and just to understand what is happening in New Zealand, it gave me such a wide and compassionate understanding of both sides.
Right.
Yeah, so I would do that, and then I would say go and participate in scientific things, like go to what I wrote some things down that could be done. Expose children to Western science. So do, for example, bio-blitzes. I don't know if you've heard of them, where they go with a school class to a certain area, maybe a river or hillside or mountainside or something, and record with the children. I don't know how long they do it, 24 hours, I think. Everything that they can find, you know, like animals and plants, and record it all. And it has been so successful, those bio-blitzes. And children got first hand to work with microscopes and with a scientist who could explain things. So it's a very interactive, but it fosters a love of science.
Right.
Yeah, I found that really fantastic. And then Nature Watch, I don't know if you know about nature. Such a great tool to record things. And if children they're so good with computers, so it'll be easy for them to find their way around there. Maybe go visit the herbarium, you know, learn about how plants are kept and made ready for scientific studies. I'm a bit biased because I live here and we have the largest herbarium in New Zealand. Field trips with scientists are fantastic. There are projects, government funding, called Unlocking Curious Minds.
Yes,
you might have heard of that.
Curious Minds.
Yeah, if you could get
these
into...
These guys know about Curious Minds.
Yes. So these are all fantastic things. But to balance it out, because that's done quite readily and it's quite popular, all these things. To balance it out, I think we teachers should expose children to Mātauranga Māori. So go for an overstay night in a marae, you know, learn what's around there, maybe do a bio-blitz on the marae grounds, for example, what else did I say? Join Māori-led programs, because things that are organized by tangata whenua are often quite different because of that holistic approach, where the student is important, the teacher is important, the object, the project is important, so it'll give them a different feeling and a different view on things. What else could be done? There's a project Lancashire or Manaki Whenua did called Ahi Pepe. It's the moss net. So just specific Maori-led projects where then things like literature is translated into both language, so you'll have it for kohanga reos, you know, for schools in te reo, and you got it for Western or Pakeha language schools. So citizen science, basically.
Yes.
That, I think that's really fantastic. Works really for, and just making more of an effort to support Mātauranga Māori in this way.
So to summarise. You said, I can't remember now. You said there was such a rich vein of things that you said. Can you recap those 3 or 4?
So for how to interact with the sciences, different sciences. Yeah. So Western science, maybe bio-blitz. Learning about Nature Watch is really cool. Go to a scientific niwa or agri-research or Manaki Whenua and spend a day somewhere, you know, as a scientist, with a class. We have that regularly happening here at Manaki Whenua. So that, and in Mātauranga Māori, do definitely as overnight stay, because it's important to stay, to sleep together, you know, to all these things. Maybe do a... Oh, hang on, I'll switch off my phone wherever it is. There you go. Yeah, stay at the marae, do something Maori-led there, for example. Maybe learn how to weave with harakeke, a small object, or learn some karakias or some protocols around harvesting or around going into the bush, harvesting plants for healing. For example, like kawa has become so popular for making healing creams for eczema and stuff. Just little projects. I'll switch the phone off. Excuse me. So, yes, I think just immersing yourself in Te Ao Māori, I think that will be, and keeping an open heart, because it'll feel weird a little bit first, because it'll be so different to what we're experienced in the Western world, you know.
Yes. And that getting used to something new can be quite challenging and sometimes a little bit painful. But the thing is to persist. Oops, I've dropped a bit of paper.
I think, you know what I think? The pain only happens if we resist.
Yes.
But if we are open, like children mostly are,
yes.
It might be painful for the teacher, but never mind.
Yeah.
The children will have a ball because they have this openness and still, hopefully, receptiveness for new things. And even learning to sing. For us Western Pākehā, singing is like, oh no, nobody wants to sing, you know, because we've lost it. Our great-grandparents, they were singing and playing piano and all this. It's not like Western world has never done it.
That's right.
It's just we haven't been practicing. So, and it does affect the human in a very positive way, I find.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you've given us a whole load of ideas. Can you give me any examples of how, in its everyday activities, Manaaki Whenua tends to support this linking of science and Mātauranga Māori?
Yes. So for Manaaki Whenua in general, it's kind of in our policies, I think you say.
Yeah.
It's called Vision Mātauranga, and so we try, and not just try, we actually do interact with iwi and have whole projects. A good example is the manawa honey from the Tūhoi people at in the North Island, obviously. And we're working very closely with Tūhoi people. We just started to work with people in Nelson, some different hapu with different names, on more of agricultural projects and horticultural projects. And so, yeah, very much so.
Growing traditional Maori crops, or
sometimes it is a combination. I am not certain, I haven't got all the exact specific details, but often it is treaty land which became available through the treaty settlements, and then what do we do with it? Māori have certain ideas what they would like to do, and then working together for the benefit of tangata whenua so that they can have the best outcome. So using a little bit of scientific Western science and using heaps of Mātauranga Māori and combine it and just create the best outcome for... That's why I switched the phone off.
It's haunted.
You have to cut that out. I said power off? Oh, you have to say it twice.
Yes.
Sorry, Brett. So, yes, very much so. Also, personally for myself, I've always enjoyed it because I was weaving. Raranga is, you know, the art of Maori people, of tangata whenua. So I was the student, basically. I was learning and I was absorbing knowledge. And
so now you're passing it on.
And I pass it on and I absorb more and I see more of we all work together for and respect each other in their specific fields. Like I can't even say, well, I am not a scientist, so I can't even really with authority talk on Western science, nor can I talk on Maori kaupapa as such, but I can talk what I absorbed and what I observed and what feels right to me.
And in a way, you're in an ideal situation because you
Yes.
sort of stand apart from all of these different streams.
Actually,
And you're
yes.
immersing yourself in them and observing too.
Yeah. And I feel definitely enriched by the whole experience. The one thing that I did when I went to this third Treaty of Waitangi workshop, I really felt I had this urge of I really want to help to facilitate this Mātauranga Māori, connecting it with people so that Maori people are actually leading things. So I thought I knew we needed another person to work in this harakeke, because it just became too big for one person, because I'm only supposed to work half day here and half day work in the herbarium. And so I thought, in my mind I said, this is going to be a Maori person who comes here. I choose to, you know. And just like that, a lovely young lady, Mihi, came to harvest here every now and then and showed an extreme interest. She was highly qualified through the Wānanga or Aotearoa in her weaving. And one day I just thought, right, I'm going to ask her. And she's been working here for more than a year. And so I feel very kind of proud in this way.
Good. Well, I think, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Let me look at my amazing list. I think you covered everything really well. Yes.
It's been a good conversation.
Yes.
Okay, well, kia ora, Katarina. And I'd like to thank Bradley White for recording this session. I've enjoyed our discussion today and have learned heaps. I hope our STLP audience finds this discussion valuable. Thanks again to both of you.
Thank you,
It's been a real pleasure to be here.
No, lovely.
Cheers.
Cheers.